We're joined by Tom Sandy Castle.
Hello, Peter.
He's going to be talking through the Fontwell card a bit later on. And Sam Boswell, I did get your name wrong earlier, but I do apologise. You're going to be talking to us about the horse, Willie Mullins. Give us the horse.
I am told I am grand.
I am told I am grand. We'll ask exactly what it's like to be part owner of a horse that's owned by Willie Mullins. What we're going to do now in the next segment is we're going to go live. Hopefully we're going to go live to Gowan Park and speak to David Jennings at the Irish Racing Post. David, can you hear me?
Can indeed.
Great. Good morning. How's the weather, first of all?
It's fantastic over here today, yeah. I know the forecast was for a very good weekend and the sun is splitting the stones here this morning, so unfortunately for a few of my fancies later on in the card, I was hoping that we might get a bit of rain, but no, it looks like it's going to be a bright and sunny day the whole way through.
So you've done all that preparation, David, and now you've got to put a pen and cross them all out. Is that what you're saying?
I thought the one thing I could rely on in Ireland was rain, and I can't even rely on that today.
Right. Well, one person you can rely on is Catherine.
I think I'd rather rely on the rain.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
And Kevin wants to ask you one or two things. Obviously, I think, first of all, about Noel Mead.
Yeah, absolutely. David, I know you were at Noel Mead's. It was the Owners' Open Day last Sunday. Is that correct, isn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed, yeah. He had, which is very rare in Ireland. I know it's very common over in England. I know Paul Nicholls, Nicky Henderson, they all do it over in England, but very rare in Ireland. I think we're a little bit behind the times, but Noel did it last Sunday morning. It was a fantastic success, and we coupled it with a stable tour for the Racing Posts, which will be going in, I think, on the 15th of October. So I got a real good insight into his team now, and it was a real fantastic morning, really. And I kind of went there thinking, Willie Mullins kind of has everything, and I was kind of thinking, Tony Martin, Gordon Elliott have kind of stepped up the ladder and maybe had gone ahead of Noel Mead, but after leaving Castletown last Sunday morning, I certainly wasn't thinking that. He's a fantastic set of horses. A lot of young horses this year. I think he's only got one 10-year-old, possibly one 11-year-old, and all younger than that. So he's a team, a kind of a surprisingly good team to go to war with this year.
And David, I've got a few notes that our mutual friend Noel Hayes has given me from. He was there, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Ned Buntline, I believe Noel Mead's actually pretty bullish about him.
Yeah, Ned Buntline has been very interesting. He's always been the apple of Noel's eye, and I think last year we didn't really see the best of him. He was very impressive, obviously, when he won on St Stephen's Day or Boxing Day over in England in Leopardstown. He's a fine big horse. He's absolutely huge. He was the biggest horse paraded in Noel's last Sunday, and he's going novice chasing, which I think is not a huge surprise because when you look at JP McManus owns Ned Buntline, he's got Jesky, he's got My 10 to Yours, and if Ned Buntline was to stay over hurdles, he certainly wouldn't be a handicapper. He'd be a Grade 1 hurdler. So I think it's probably a positive thing that Ned Buntline is going over fences, and I suppose it's strange in that he's only 5, but he's schooled already. And when Noel talks about this horse, he talks about him as if he's maybe not Cardinal Hill or the likes, but he talks about him in very glowing terms, and it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on.
Okay, and Monksland is on the road to the World Hurdle.
He is indeed, yeah. Monksland, I suppose last year they were very tempted to go chasing with him, and then they kind of decided not to. And I suppose last year, after being so impressive at Leopardstown over Christmas and then the Woodies Day at White Hurdle, I suppose it was just disappointing that he got injured afterwards. And he's back, he's staying over hurdles, he's going for the same race again. That Grade 2 3-mile race at Christmas at Leopardstown has been upgraded from Grade 2 to a Grade 1. So I think that's part of the reason why they've stayed over hurdles. And it's an interesting division in Ireland this year because you've also got Solwith, obviously. So Solwith and Monksland would be two of the leading hopes. And then if Big Bucks obviously came back to his best, it would be an intriguing 3-mile hurdle division this year, which has not been the case in other years.
Okay, and just quickly, two of the younger horses, obviously Harvey Logan, he clipped heels and actually came down in the Land Rover bumper. Believe that he thinks a lot of him.
He does indeed. I thought it was interesting, the point he made about Harvey Logan was he said the time he was beaten, he was second first time out, and he was beaten by Waxy's Dargle, and he said he was so shocked that he was beaten that day that he had to ring JP McManus and buy Waxy's Dargle because he said this horse must be something special if he bet Harvey Logan. So I thought that was interesting with that regard. He's got a huge team of bumper horses, and it really, like talking to him, he seems to think that they're going to really make giant strides this year. And the thing about Noel is I think he's realised that he can't take on Willie Mullins after Christmas. So probably before it was a little bit of a coincidence that his horses tailed off after Christmas, and it's worth knowing Noel was champion trainer as early ago as 2006, so it hasn't been a Willie Mullins domination for 20 years. Noel was champion trainer for a couple of years in the last decade, so I think he's realised now that he can't take on Willie Mullins at Punchestown, at Fairyhouse, at Cheltenham. So he really gets his horses ready early in the season. And as he was going through his team, almost every one he was saying, this horse will be ready in another week or two. This horse will be ready to run in 3 weeks. This horse will be ready to run in 2 weeks. This horse is running next week. Whereas a lot of Willie Mullins' stable stars haven't even been seen on the gallops yet. So I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Noel Mead. I'll always remember standing around the parade ring at Cheltenham when he came in and actually kissed the turf when Sausalito Bay won the Supreme Novices. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I think with Noel, he just waited so long to get that Cheltenham winner. He'd been champion trainer in Ireland so many times, and he'd gone so close. Like I remember looking back on races. I don't know if anybody remembers Native Dara. How that horse ever got beaten, I watch it time and time again. And I still expect him to win every time, but I don't know how he was beaten. But I think he just was so happy to end that Cheltenham jinx that year. But he probably should have done better at Cheltenham than he's done over the years. But look, it's just one of them things.
Yeah, it is. And I believe he's also got a half brother to Harchibald named Harchie.
He does indeed. I know Archibald is very close to both of our hearts. I hope he doesn't cause me as much pain and frustration as Archibald did. But he's got a lot of very, very well bred horses, and Harchie's obviously interesting. But there's a couple that I took from it. I suppose Very would be the one that's very interesting. Gigginstown have this thing over here basically where their point-to-pointers are with Gordon Elliott, and because Gordon Elliott trains them for their point-to-points, they can't stay with Gordon Elliott. So even though Very Wood was with Gordon last year and did super with Gordon, Michael O'Leary doesn't want them staying with the horses, with the trainers that they won their point for, around their point for, because I think he thinks, if they're fully weighed up for their points, they won't have as much longevity, I suppose. So they switch stables when they're finished their points. So it's like Pat Doyle and all that. They obviously switch. So Noel Mead had the pick of, I think, any of his point-to-pointers, any of Gordon's point-to-pointers, and he picked Very Wood. And I think so far he's been extremely happy with him, I think.
Excellent. No, well, thanks for that, Dave. It's fantastic to have that little insight into the Open Day. I know you want to talk a little bit about the 220 at Newmarket. I know you're absolutely mad about Oklahoma City, as am I. Now, David, tell me, is this going to be one of the tips that you say to me that if it doesn't win, you're going to walk down my street in your underwear?
No, I've learned from my past mistakes.
There's two now, David. So you've got to go up and down the road.
Exactly, yeah. No, the one thing I'm very worried about with Oklahoma City this morning is that Ladbrokes are top price at 9-2.
Okay.
And anytime Ladbrokes are top price about an Aidan O'Brien horse, I get extremely worried. So this horse I think this horse should be 2-1, 9-4, maybe even 7-4. And Ladbrokes go 9-2. They have the insight into the stable, so that's really, really worrying. But when I looked at this race on Thursday, if ever there was a track made for Oklahoma City, if ever there was a trip made for Oklahoma City, it's 7 furlongs at Newmarket. If you get a chance at some stage today, try and look at his maiden win at Naas. He just exploded and went 10 lengths clear, and they never saw which way he went. It was a bad maiden, I accept that. But even the last day, obviously he was running against a very, very decent horse in a Derby hopeful. But if you look back at the race, I thought he got a very strange ride from Jamie Heffernan. On the home turn, he looked as if he was going to maybe finish last. A furlong out, he looked like he might win. And he ended up kind of just staying on at the one pace. But I think they weren't sure if he'd stay a mile the last day in the Curragh. So I think they tried to harness him early. I don't think they'll need to do that today. I think the horse he's run against are Group 3 horses. And I think this is a genuine Group 2 horse. I'm obviously worried that it's 92 with Ladbrokes, but I'd be disappointed if Oklahoma City couldn't win that.
So can I ask you, David, so you've got racing at Gowan Park and racing at Tipperary, and your nap runs at Newmarket?
No, it's certainly not my nap, but I just think when I looked at the race on Thursday, I just thought if I could pick a race, pick a track, pick a trip for Oklahoma City, he's a horse I have an awful lot of time for. I ran at 6 furlongs on a second start at the Curragh, and I thought it would win that day, but it missed a break. Still ran a very good race. I think he's a little bit underestimated, and I think the form, his Irish form, is better than English form. Tufi obviously did well the last day to win, but I don't know. I just think Oklahoma, bringing it down to form, I think Oklahoma City has better form than I know it's a big field, but I think Oklahoma City is the best form in the race.
Okay, David. I think, bearing in mind what Catherine said last night, I think you're backtracking because now there's the underpants running down the street.
Yes,
but anyway, let's move on to Gowan
Okay,
Park.
David, obviously Sizing Europe back again to try and win the PwC Champion Chase for the 3rd year running.
Yeah, I was doing the spotlights for yesterday for the paper today at Goran, and as I said, I was hoping that the ground. What's interesting about Goran today, the chase track is actually good, which is very surprising. And the hurdle track is, I think, soft, yielding to soft in places. So I looked at this race yesterday. I was trying to price it up. I put Size in Europe in at 11-8. A couple of people in the office were surprised that I had him so big, but I just think in this race he's kind of worth taking on. He was impressive in it last year, but it turned into a nothing race last year because First Lieutenant can't really go right-handed, and he didn't run well. The year before, if you can remember, Ruby Light would have absolutely annihilated Size in Europe had he not fallen at the last. I just think at the prices, especially Bet365 opened the betting last night and went 8-1 Ruby Light. I couldn't believe that. I know a lot of our office were very keen to get on the 8-1. It's down to 5-1 now. Obviously the ground is probably a little bit, we would have preferred if it was a little bit softer. But if Ruby Light is ever going to beat Size in Europe, it's going to be 2 Mile 4, Gorham Park in the first race of the year. Talking to Robbie Hennessy, he's very, very pleased with his progress. He's still only an 8-year-old. You have to remember that Size in Europe is going to be 12 in January. I think Size in Europe is worth taking on today. He could win, and he might very well win, but I just think at the prices, I think Ruby Light is certainly the value call, because he really, if you look back through all his form, his best runs have been at Gorham Park over 2 Mile 4, and this is his time of year. He excels really early on in the year, and I think, like Noel Meade, I think Robbie Hennessy realises that Ruby Light is not going to win at Ryanair, he's not going to win in Arkle, so I think he has to target the early season races, and if I was having a bet in that race, it would certainly be Ruby Light.
Okay, well, David, I'd love to talk to you all day, but I'm getting screamed at in my ear that we are going to have to stop you there.
Actually, that's not that is true, David, but we are very keen, very quickly, on talking about Tipperary tomorrow.
Yeah, David, just quickly, Rebel Fitz obviously going in the Like a Butterfly novice chase, and Captain CB, now 12 years old, bless him, going in the Tipperary hurdle.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a worse friends at Tipperary hurdle. If you look back to the winners, you know, going 8-1 a few years ago, and it's usually like a good starting point, and we're hoping that our Connor might start there this year. Yeah. But it's an absolutely desperate race this year. If I could pick 8 kind of Grade 2 horses that I wouldn't back in a Grade 2 with love nor money, these would be them. I think Captain CB would probably win it by process elimination. He's 13 in a couple of months' time, and he's going to be roughly about 13-8, 7-4. But just trying to find anything to beat him is impossible. So I'd probably go for Captain CB, and Rebel Fitz looks like to be picking up money again. It is worrying that he tailed off about this time last year. He's had about 5 runs in a couple of months, so that's worrying, but he's the best horse in that race by quite a considerable margin. So they look to 2 horses that will probably win. And in the novice hurdle, actually, the Grade 3, I think it probably could be worth giving Curly Bill another chance. I know Noel is convinced that he might be a Grade 1 hurdler in time, so I think he's probably worth another chance, but his jumping has to improve. The last day at Listowel, he jumped like a hairy goat, so his jumping does have to improve to win something like that.
Okay, right. David, before you go, one last thing, your best bet of the weekend.
My best bet for the weekend, I'd probably go for the last race in Gorham Park today, a horse called 2 Scoops of Henry de Bromhead. Now it's a hot enough beginner's chase, but reports suggest that he's schooled very, very well, and I think he could be, just quality-wise, I think he could be better than his opponents in that.
Okay, lovely.
Thanks, David.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. Look forward to speaking to you next week, hopefully.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.